The story of Tiffany Hall and Jimella Tunstall is more than a tragedy. It is a horrific saga of broken dreams, mental health struggles, and the unraveling of human connections. Tiffany and Jimella grew up in East St. Louis, Illinois, an area plagued with poverty and crime. The weight of their environment shaped turbulent childhoods. Jimella had been shuffled between foster homes, seeking stability, while Tiffany battled legal and behavioral issues, plunging into a cycle of despair, fueled by arson, assault, and deep-seated inner turmoil. Through it all, the bond the two shared was their lifeline, a thread of solace in a cruel world. Yet beneath their friendship lay unspoken barriers. As teenagers, they both became mothers at just 16, forced into responsibilities they were hardly old enough to shoulder. Jimella, despite setbacks, fought to build a stable life for her children, attending parenting support groups and striving for a brighter tomorrow. For Tiffany, it was a darker tale. Allegations of abuse led to the loss of her daughters, marking a psychological breaking point that chipped away at her already fragile mind. Over time, their paths diverged. Jimella found strength in raising her family and breaking free from the chains of her past. Tiffany, however, spiraled, her life dominated by addiction, prison sentences, and mounting instability. The emotional scars she carried from childhood began to fester dangerously. On September 16, 2006, Tiffany stepped into a hospital carrying the lifeless body of a newborn, claiming she had given birth in a park. Her story raised suspicions. Simultaneously, Jimella, 7 months pregnant, disappeared. The connection became chillingly clear when Tiffany admitted to her boyfriend, Keith Horn, the unimaginable. She had murdered Jimella and taken the unborn child from her womb. The true horror began to unfold. Investigators soon discovered Jimella's body, abandoned in an overgrown lot near Tiffany's home. Near the lifeless body lay a grim token of Tiffany's unfathomable act, a pair of bloodied scissors. The details Tiffany later shared in custody painted a picture of unthinkable violence. What began under the guise of friendship ended in nightmarish betrayal. On the day of the murder, Tiffany invited Jimella to her mother's house with deadly intentions. A simple reunion unraveled into horror as Tiffany attacked Jimella, beating her unconscious with a table leg and binding her hands and feet with duct tape. When Jimella woke, Tiffany silenced her with cruel efficiency before descending into carnage, forcing a pair of scissors into Jimella's abdomen to extract the unborn child. Jimella, still alive, succumbed to her brutal injuries. What made this crime all the more chilling was its calculated nature. Tiffany planned it methodically, having purchased a birth kit days prior. She had pretended to be pregnant for months to deceive her boyfriend into staying with her. This heinous act emerged not as a moment of rage, but as a product of premeditated malice, tied to mental unraveling and desperate emotional voids. As if one horrifying crime wasn't enough, Jimella's 3 young children, aged 7, 2, and 1, were reported missing in the wake of her death. The agony of Jimella's family and the community only deepened as law enforcement pieced together the events. Investigators turned their focus on Tiffany, hoping for answers. It emerged that in the days following the murder, Tiffany had taken the children under her care. Astonishingly, she later confessed to another gruesome act, drowning all 3 children in the bathtub of Jimella's apartment. Her rationale echoed the depravity of earlier decisions. She feared they would reveal her crimes. The children's bodies were recovered inside a washing machine and a dryer, a discovery that left even seasoned officers shaken. This further act of violence grounded the narrative in deeper anguish, sparking questions about how such atrocities could escape detection and intervention. While the tragedy of Jimella and her children provokes outrage and sorrow, it also shines a spotlight on critical mental health issues. Tiffany Hall's actions are symptomatic of untreated trauma, unmanaged mental disorders, and a life lived in the shadows of systemic neglect. Her mental decline had been building for years, with significant red flags: her tumultuous childhood, her loss of custody, and her cycle of legal troubles, all pointing at someone crying out for help. But society failed to listen. This case raises urgent questions about the role of mental health care in preventing tragedies. Could timely intervention have saved Jimella, her children, and even Tiffany from her destructive path? Could a supportive system, awareness campaigns, or accessible resources have steered Tiffany toward healing before her pain consumed her entirely? The case also highlights how emotional instability, when coupled with isolation and untreated psychological issues, can culminate in horrific acts of desperation and rage. This is not a justification, but a reminder of the consequences of unmet mental health needs. As horrific as this tale may be, it serves as a crucial reminder of the importance of recognizing signs of distress in those around us. It begs us to foster an environment of empathy and open dialogue regarding mental health. Accusations of evil often overshadow the reality of untreated illnesses, leading tragic stories like Tiffany and Jimella's to repeat in less visible forms every day. General audiences must understand one thing: trauma is not a confined event. Left untreated, it can ripple outward, triggering cycles of harm and destruction. Programs promoting mental health education must be widespread, emphasizing resources for those silently enduring depression, post-traumatic stress, and other disorders that remain stigmatized in many communities. The senselessness of these events lingers like a specter over East St. Louis. Jimella Tunstall was more than a victim. She was a mother, a fighter, and a woman, striving to give her children a chance she hadn't had. Her life was snuffed out by someone she thought she could trust, a stark testament to the darkness that mental illness can deepen when left unaddressed. Tiffany Hall's actions do not evoke pity, but rather sorrow for a life derailed by internal demons. Hers is a cautionary tale, a strained thread in a larger tapestry of societal failures that allow vulnerable individuals to fall through the cracks. Her story and Jimella's suffering must spark awareness. Perhaps their tragic end can serve a purpose: to shed light on the fragile connections that bind us and the need to safeguard those connections with compassion, vigilance, and mental health support for all. Tiffany Hall's chilling confession led to a horrifying turn of events. While in custody, she disclosed the whereabouts of Jimella Bolden's children. Police returned to Jimella's apartment the next morning, stepping into a scene so appalling it defied comprehension. A sickening stench filled the air, leading officers to the source, the washing machine and dryer. Inside, the decomposing bodies of 3 children, Jimella's 7-year-old DeAndre, 2-year-old Ivan, and 10-month-old Janella, were discovered. They had been there for 5 days, unnoticed even during their initial search. Tiffany later confessed to the gruesome details. Only days after killing Jimella, she devised a lie to deceive Ivan, Jimella's partner. Claiming Jimella wanted her children and her car, she picked up the 3 children, promising them bath time. Tiffany drowned each one in the same bathtub where their mother had been murdered. Reports suggest she may have drugged the children with cough syrup to subdue them. Afterward, she placed the bodies in the washer and dryer of Jimella's apartment in the John DeShields housing complex. This grim revelation not only shocked the community, but also the nation. The lack of motive behind these murders added another haunting element to the case, leaving everyone questioning Tiffany's state of mind. Why murder her best friend and her children? Was this truly an evil act? Or were untreated mental health issues responsible? On September 29, 2006, Jimella's funeral became a gathering place for an entire community struck by grief. Over 700 attendees came together to honor Jimella's bright spirit and devotion to her children. Stories of her radiant smile and love for her family created a heartfelt tribute to a life shattered by unimaginable cruelty. The community rallied in the face of tragedy, raising over $330,000 within 3 days to help cover funeral expenses. Jimella's stillborn daughter, initially buried separately, was later exhumed to be placed alongside her in Mount Zion Cemetery, together with her 3 children. This act brought a measure of unity and healing to the grieving family. Initially, Tiffany Hall faced 2 murder charges for killing Jimella and her unborn child. However, as the investigation progressed, 3 more charges were added for the children's murders. Despite her initial plea of not guilty, she underwent a thorough psychiatric evaluation. The evaluation deemed her mentally competent to stand trial, but it highlighted severe mental health concerns. Tiffany, a mother of 2 herself, had children aged 7 and 8 at the time of the crimes. Her lawyers noted that she had a low IQ, scoring in the mid-70s, and suffered from significant mental health challenges. Still, her chilling acts left the question of her intent chillingly open. How could a mother, familiar with the profound bond between parent and child, commit such unspeakable acts against her best friend's young ones? On June 10, 2008, Tiffany was sentenced to life in prison without parole for 5 murders. Although this marked the end of the prosecution's case, it was far from the conclusion of Tiffany's legal battle. In September 2008, she attempted to withdraw her guilty plea, citing ineffective representation by her legal team. However, this motion was denied. In 2012, Tiffany escalated her fight by filing another appeal, which was also unsuccessful. Her appeals relied on the argument that her attorneys failed to properly investigate her mental health history and her competency to stand trial. According to court documents, her legal team had not received vital psychiatric evaluation results until after she entered her guilty plea. These results, which painted a troubling picture of her mental state, could potentially have impacted her defense during the trial. The psychiatric evaluations presented alarming details about Tiffany's long history of mental health issues. Reports indicated multiple hospitalizations and diagnoses of severe conditions, including psychotic disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. A key shortcoming of her defense team was their failure to address her sanity at the time of the crime, rather than her competency to stand trial. These findings ignited a prolonged appeals process. In 2015 and 2016, Tiffany's petition for post-conviction relief underwent multiple revisions with her attorneys, who were granted extensions to refine her arguments. However, the court eventually dismissed her petition on procedural grounds, ruling that it failed to meet required standards. Undeterred, Tiffany contested this dismissal, claiming her lawyer had not adequately amended the petition. Remarkably, in 2020, an appellate court ruled in her favor, granting her another opportunity to seek post-conviction relief. This decision reignited debates about whether Tiffany's mental health history had been sufficiently examined during her trial. Tiffany remains a polarizing figure. Now 42 years old and held at Logan Correctional Center in Lincoln, Illinois, she continues to pursue legal avenues for relief from her life sentence. While her appeals progress, questions about justice linger. Has the judicial system done enough for both Tiffany and the victims' families? One poignant chapter in this tragic case was the exhumation of Jimella's stillborn baby. Initially buried apart, the baby now rests with Jimella and her children. This symbolic act of unity provided a semblance of peace to Jimella's remaining family, even as Tiffany's case remained locked in controversial appeals. Tiffany Hall's crimes remain among the most disturbing modern cases of familial betrayal. Friends and family described her as a devoted mother and a trusted friend. How could someone capable of such heinous acts wear the mask of normalcy for so long? The case also underscored unanswered legal and social questions. How does the criminal justice system address defendants with clear histories of mental illness? Should the courts have taken additional steps to explore Tiffany's sanity during the crimes? For the victims' families, these questions might never receive adequate answers. For the public, Tiffany Hall's story stands as a sobering reminder that even close relationships can hide unimaginable darkness. Despite the bleakness of the narrative, the resilience of Jimella's family and community is an enduring testament to human strength. In their collective mourning, they found unity and healing. Fundraising efforts surpassed expectations, ensuring that Jimella and her children could be honored in a dignified and loving manner. Through these acts, they preserved the memory of 4 innocent lives stolen by betrayal. For those who gathered at Jimella's funeral, the event marked a refusal to let tragedy overshadow her enduring legacy of love, joy, and devotion to her children. Tiffany Hall's case invites both anger and reflection. Is life imprisonment a punishment proportionate to her crimes, or does it pale in comparison to the irreversible damage done? The ongoing appeals mark a lingering chapter in this harrowing story. As legal battles drag on, they serve as a chilling reminder of the complexities surrounding a multiple murder case intertwined with mental health issues. What do you think? Should Tiffany Hall's case be reopened in light of her mental health history, or does her sentence represent justice served? Share your thoughts on this perplexing case. If you found this deep dive compelling, consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more stories that examine both the depths of criminality and the resilience of the human spirit. Thank you for watching.